Okay, so today we'll be replacing the valve cover gasket. This specific vehicle is for a 2008 Toyota Camry. You don't need a lot of tools, just wrench set. I think for this one you only need a size 10. Flathead screwdriver, pliers, and a torque nut. For this car it is 8 feet-pounds of torque. Depends on every vehicle. And that's pretty much it, and the brand new valve cover gasket. So you start by taking off just these two screws right here, and this will pop right off. You know, it's always a good idea to have like a box or like a smaller thing where you can keep all your, that way you can keep all your tools in one place. It should pop right off. Next thing you want to do is remove your coils here, and we'll set those aside. These have specific lengths, so there's no need to mark them. Now, if your car, they're all the same, you might want to mark them. That way, when you're in the process of putting them back, you know which one goes where. These are not actually nice working gloves. Get some nicer gloves, guys. These are a bit tacky here. You can fast forward this, right? That's one editing. So there's your coils coming out right out. Also, if you need new spark plugs, this would be a good time to replace them since you're already getting down there. Now your spark plugs will be down in there. This has to come off, and this will have to come off. That way you can move this out of the way. That works too. That's not a big deal. Actually, we can do this one the same way. Just set it aside if you want to get out. Little rag. Just set it down. Just set it back there. Okay, this one. Now, if you drop a screw down there, there's a little there's a small magnetic tool if you ever drop a tool that you can retrieve your tools with. So it's not the end of the world. You can see where it was leaking. You can see all the gunk. So I'll be assuming maybe there's a break there. And the valve cover gasket, maybe one here, definitely one around here. Also, besides the tools, I don't know if we mentioned this earlier, you need to purchase a RTV gasket maker for your gaps. Okay. Pliers. Okay, so there's still a couple of screws to take off, but you also need to take off 2 hoses actually. For this one, it's hard to pull it out from here, so you might first want to disconnect it up there. That way you can turn it to a better angle so you can pull this one out without breaking it. is another place. This is the one. Oh, I see, yeah. That was... So once you take this hose off of that end there, you don't have to try to twist it now. Once you get the whole thing off, then you can take it off later on. But there is a second hose here. And this one is a bit, you might want to be maybe a little bit more delicate with. So put these back there. And, try to be gentle. This one is not as easy. Okay, so easier way of taking this one off, because it's actually a bit tough to take off, and you definitely don't want to break it. If you have a flathead screwdriver and you come just to break the seal a little bit, push it back, it loosens up, then it just pulls out. So definitely recommend using a flathead on that one. So there is actually, we already took 4 off. So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, so there's a total of 14 screws that need to come off. And it looks like they're all size 10, so not a lot of tools here really. So when you're taking these screws off, you don't want to just take one off completely, go to the next one. Do it, in increments. So loosen one a little bit, go to the next one, loosen it a little bit. And this is especially important after you've put on the brand new valve cover gasket, because you want the pressure to be even everywhere. So when you're putting the screws back on, definitely do it in increments. If you do that one first, do the one across it next, then go like that. And definitely make sure you use a torque wrench and you torque it to the right measurements according to your vehicle. So now I can start taking. We can start taking the screws out, the bolts out, not screws. We're still trying to keep them in one place. Looks like that's all. So after you've taken them off, it's really important to note that these two longer ones, they have a very specific space. So these two go right here in these two middle ones. So do keep an eye on or pay attention to which screw is coming out of, because these two have a very specific place. They go right here in these two middle parts. So another important thing to note when you're taking the valve cover off, the wire harness for the coil, this little plastic part here, is actually over the top of the valve cover. So you don't want to lift the valve cover up when you're trying to take it out. You want to lift it up from the left side and slide it out to the left. So first thing you do need to do is you need to get a flathead screwdriver, loosen this up, and then you want to lift it from the left side and slide out left. Okay, so here we're using a flathead screwdriver to loosen the connection here on the valve cover. And remember, we're lifting it up on the left side and moving it left. That way we don't break that plastic harness for the coil. Okay. And just put it up. So here comes the gasket. So when you're taking the valve cover off, you don't want to flip it here over the engine head because you don't want any debris falling there. So as soon as you get it, take it out, take it where you're going to work on it, where you're going to put the new gasket, and try to keep this clean. It's always not a bad idea to get like a towel or something, especially if you're working outdoors, to go ahead and cover the engine head so no debris gets in there. So we'll just keep this covered. And let's go work on the gasket. So here, upon close inspection of the valve cover and the plastic gasket here, it actually looks, from up here, it looks like the gasket's in pretty good shape. So let's sort of turn it a little bit and inspect where it could have failed. So this doesn't look too bad. This right here definitely looks bad, so I'm expecting, you know, a failure here. So let's see if we can. It actually looks good, which is surprising. Oh, there it is. So here's one place where it failed at, and it's leaking, and you can tell because clear indication here. Let's see if there's any other place. Maybe this corner has a little bit of a leak. Let's inspect that there. Taking it out. See this corner, yep, another smaller but still little rip there. Another one right here. Let's see. Yep, a little bit of indication of that there as well. And a few minor ones here in this corner. It's not in terrible shape, but definitely does need replacing. So that's what that looks like. The inside ones, these look like they're in good shape. Let's see here. So these ones actually look good, but it's all one. It's all connected and we're replacing it, so we'll go ahead and take them out as well. It does have a really good connection. Taking them out. Out. Okay, so after you've cleaned your valve cover, you also want to clean the engine head where you'll be putting the rubber gasket. So, and again, try to make sure, you know, no debris falls inside of the engine head here. So we want to get this as clean as possible with a little rag or like a little sponge. And I would recommend, if it's sort of really sticky, I would recommend you rub it out instead of inside of your rubbing all the little gunk inside of your engine head. I would highly recommend doing it out. Okay, now we are applying, we have just finished cleaning the engine head, and we are applying our RTV silicone. We are using a red one that is for high temperature. I would recommend using that one. One thing to note when you're applying the RTV silicone is you don't have a lot of time to install the valve head cover, so as soon as you finish applying it, start installing it because you don't want it to dry up. So you just want to apply a small amount, and you also do need to give, you need to allow the RTV some time to fully dry. The instructions say 24 hours, so I'd probably stick to what the instructions say. It says wait 1 hour before you fully torque your bolts, but then allow 24 hours, allow it to sit 24 hours to fully dry. Okay, so now we are in the process of replacing the valve cover head here. So when we're replacing it, when we're putting it back on, we are putting it back the same way we took it off. Lift it on the Okay, so now we are hand tightening the screws that we took off earlier. We're only hand tightening them, we're not using a wrench. So after hand tightening these, we're gonna insert the spark plug coils. So now we are replacing the hoses and the clamps back. Make sure you get it back in there tight and make sure it's in there good. It's not coming off just like how it originally was. That is not coming off. So we can tighten it back more a little bit. That is as far as it goes. That is tight. We have one more back. So we actually have two on this one where we originally took off. So putting this one back in its original place. And right there. That's where that one belongs. We can adjust it a little bit exactly where it was. And we have that one back there, which we'll first insert as far as possible. You hear a little clicking actually. And we'll bring the clip back and tighten it. Back there. So now we're replacing the 3 bolts holding the wire harness. There's one there, another one down here, and one more for the spark plug coil right over here. So almost done here. Before we use the torque wrench on all the bolts, we are placing the spark plug coils back in their place, and we're going to put those bolts in. And then after that, we are going to use the torque wrench, and for this vehicle it is 8 feet-pounds of torque is what's recommended, or if you have it in inches, it is 96 inches-pound of torque. So final step before we put the cover, we are torquing all the bolts to 96 inch-pounds of torque or 8 foot-pounds of torque. This is for the 2008 Toyota Camry. Your vehicle might be different, so do verify what you're supposed to use. So another important thing to note when you're torquing your bolts, you want to go in and out, meaning you don't just want to torque them in order, like do this one, go to the next one. Don't do that. If you do that one first, go back there and do that one, and once you're done with that one, if you do the one over there, do the one across it next. That way you won't break your gasket by putting all the pressure on one side. This is how it should look after everything is on except for the cover. You can see the new valve cover gasket. It's blue, and that red thing is the RTV silicone there. Now all we have to do is put the cover back on, and we should be all set. So there was only 2 bolts on the cover that you need to put. And that brings us to the end of this video.